अष्टोत्तर शत श्रीमद् भक्ति वेदांत नारायण गोस्वामी महाराज श्री गुरुदेव की जय। नितिल प्रविष्टम विष्णुपाद अष्टोत्तर शत श्रीमद् भक्ति वेदांत वामन गोस्वामी महाराज की जय। नितिल प्रविष्टम विष्णुपाद अष्टोत्तर शत श्रीमद् भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी महाराज श्री प्रभुपाद की जय। नितिल प्रविष्टम विष्णुपाद अष्टोत्तर शत श्रीमद् Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Sai. Let me start over. Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashtatarashata Shmad Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashtatarashata Shmad Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashtatarashata Shmad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nitil Pravishta Mahā-Bhāgavatam Śrīla Gokṣaras Babaji Mahārāja ki jai. Nitil Pravishta Śrīla Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur ki jai. Nitil Pravishta Vaishnav Sarvabhauma Śrīla Jagannath Das Babaji Mahārāja ki jai. Shri Rupanu Gauriya Guru Varga ki jai. Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jeev Gopal Padadash Raghunath Shāra Goswami Prabhu ki jai. Shri Sarup Damodar Rai Ramanandari Shri Gaur Parshad Vrinda ki jai. नाम आचार्य श्रील ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासरी गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री क्षेत्र मंडल गौरमंडल व्रजमंडल मथुरा वृंदावन धाम की जय। सर्व अभिष्ट विदत गिरिराज महाराज की जय। श्री राधा कुंड श्याम कुंड की जय। श्री मुन देवी गंगा देवी की जय। श्री तुलसी महारानी वृंद देवी की जय। श्री भक्ति देवी की जय। श्री पूर्णमासी योगमाया की जय। श्री गोपेश्वर महादेव की जय। श्री हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। श्री वामनदेव की जय। श्री बलि महाराज की जय। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। श्री निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। ओम ज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जना शलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। नमो ॐ विष्णुपदाय राधिकाय प्रियात्मने श्रीमद्भक्तिवेदान्त नारायणीति नामिने। नमो ॐ विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमो महावदन्याय कृष्णप्रेमप्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्णचैतन्य नाम्ने गौरतिशे नमः। गुरुगौरचन्द्राय राधिकायै तदालये कृष्णाय कृष्णभक्ताय तद्भक्ताय नमो नमः। यं प्रव्रजन्तम् अनुपेतमपेतकृत्यं द्वैपायनो विरहकातर आजुहाव पुत्रेति तन्मयतया तरवोऽभिनेदुस्तं सर्वभूतहृदयं मुनिमानतोऽस्मि। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयम् उदीरयेत्। शृण्वतं स्वकथा कृष्ण पुण्यश्रवणकीर्तन हृदन्तस्तो ह्यभद्राणि विधुनोति सुहृत्सतम्। नष्टप्रयेष्वभद्रेषु नित्यं भगवत सेवया भगवत्युत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी। तवैवास्मि तवैवास्मि न जीवामि त्वया विना इति विज्ञाय राधे त्वां नायमां चरणान्तिकम्। भक्त्या विहीना अपराधलक्षय क्षिप्ताष्टकामादितरङ्गमध्ये Kripa mai tvam sharanam prapanna vrinde namaste charana ravindam. Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. All right, so let's go through what we read yesterday. Vāmanadeva praises Bali Mahārāja and his dynasty. Then Vāmanadeva begs for 3 steps of land. And then Vāmanadeva speaks on the principles of satisfaction. Let's go through those 3 topics of this, 3 parts of this chapter. Vāmanadeva was satisfied with Bali Mahārāja's speech, which was pleasing and religious. He began to praise Bali as follows. Vāmanadeva praises Bali, your words are true, worthy of your dynasty, in accordance with religious etiquette, and enhances your reputation. You are exalted because your advisors are the Brahmins of the Bhrigu dynasty. Your instructor for future life is the peaceful Prahlad Maharaj. No one in your family has been poor-minded, been miserly, ever refused to give charity to Brahmins, failed to fulfill his promise of charity, and no one has ever refused to fight with Kshatriyas. It is even more glorious due to Prahlad, who shines like the moon in the sky. Now Vāmanadeva praises the notable personalities in the dynasty of Bali Mahārāja. Hiranyaksha wandered the globe with his club to conquer all directions. No hero he met could rival him. Lord Varahadev had killed him with difficulty. Lord Varaha felt victorious only after reflecting on the great prowess of Hiranyaksha. Hiranyakashipu heard of the news of his brother Hiranyaksha's death and went to the residence of Vishnu, desiring to kill him. Lord Vishnu, the best of all mystics and knower of time, thought, wherever I go, Hiranyakashipu will follow me, just as death follows all jivas. So I will enter his heart, for then, because of his power to see only externally, he will not see me. Thus Vishnu, in anxiety, entered the body of Hiranyakashipu in a subtle form, through his nostril along with his breath. Seeing the residence of Lord Vishnu vacant, Hiranyakashipu became angry and searched all over the universe, but could not find Vishnu anywhere. He then thought, he must have gone to the place from which no one returns. Death. Hiranyakashipu's anger against Vishnu persisted until his death. People in bodily conception maintain anger due to false ego and ignorance. Note. Lord Vishnu's anxiety, not out of fear of Hiranyakashipu, rather due to his compassion. He was in anxiety about how to act for Hiranyakashipu's welfare. Lying, fear, greed, lust, and anger are not desirable qualities in the jiva, but become great qualities in the Lord for nourishing ras and the Lord's affection for the devotee. These qualities provide a method for attaining the Lord by meditation on them, and give pleasure even to the Atma Ramas. Vāmanadeva praises Virochan. Your father Virochan was very affectionate towards the Brahmins. He knowingly gave them the duration of his life. He knowingly gave the duration of life to the demigods who came to him in the disguise of Brahmins. You have also observed the principles followed by great householder Brahmins, forefathers, and famous heroes. Then Vāmanadeva begs from Bali, O king of the demons, from you I ask only 3 paces of land to the measurement of my steps. I do not want anything else, although you are king of the universe and very generous. A learned man who takes charity only according to his needs will not be entangled in sin. And there's a note here. The stress of extravagance. Acquiring and spending money extravagantly is sinful. All property belongs to the Supreme Lord, and all entities who are his children have the right to use the Supreme Father's property. But one cannot take more than necessary. This principle should be especially followed by Brahmins and Yasis who are financially maintained by others. Otherwise, they are punishable. Vāmanadeva was an ideal beggar, for he asked only 3 paces of land. Of course, his footsteps are different from those of an ordinary human being. Vāmanadeva indirectly indicated to Bali that he was occupying more land than he needed. Considering Vāmanadeva less intelligent, Bali Mahārāja said, "O son of a Brahmin, your words are acceptable to the learned and elderly. Yet you are a mere boy with insufficient knowledge. You are not aware of your self-interest. I can give you an entire island, but you are asking for only 3 steps? One who approaches me to beg something should not have to ask anything more, anywhere. So ask for me as much land as you need to maintain yourself." Note: the Supreme Lord is the proprietor of all planets, both in the material and spiritual worlds. Why should he be in want of land? Vāmanadeva approached Bali not for his personal interest, but for the welfare of his devotees. Devotees sacrifice all personal interests to satisfy the Lord, and similarly, the Lord, although full in himself and self-satisfied, can do anything for the interest of his devotees. Vāmanadeva speaks on the principles of satisfaction. Even all the sense objects within the 3 worlds cannot satisfy a person with uncontrolled senses. Note: people in this world are anxious to get more and more things for sense gratification. However, the purpose of life is not sense gratification, but self-realization. The purpose of controlling the senses is to stop one's implication in the cycle of birth and death. If I am not satisfied with 3 steps of land, I will not be satisfied with even one of the 7 islands in Bhumandal, due to the other islands. Kings like Prithu and Gaya ruled over the 7 dweeps. Still, they could not achieve satisfaction. One should be satisfied with whatever one achieves by one's previous destiny. One who is not self-controlled will not be happy, even with possessing the 3 worlds. This is a good shloka to learn. I like that. Maybe I'll learn it. So the candidates: result of satisfaction, result of dissatisfaction. Okay. Living entities are fit for liberation from the material realm, and they're dissatisfied by the continuation of material life and repeated cycle of birth and death. The Brahmins are satisfied when their spiritual power increases, but spiritual power decreases like fire extinguished by water. So I ask for only 3 paces of land from you. This much will satisfy me. The way of happiness is to be fully satisfied with whatever is absolutely needed. Now, Śukrācārya advises Bali Mahārāja. That's where we are now. Let me see everybody who's here. Dandavat pranams Rup Manjari Didi. Cool, I'm happy you're excited for today. Haribo, Haripriya Didi, Dandavat pranams. And Didi. Okay, Haripriya Didi. And Dandavat pranams Madhavi Didi. I wonder where everybody else is. Where is it Raseshwari? Oh, there's Gargarajji, Dandavat pranam, Raseshwari Mataji, and Indira Mataji, Prajumna Prabhu, Mantramurti Mataji. Dandavat pranams to everybody. So I didn't scroll up. Okay. Where are we? Shri Shukra Uvacha Ityukta Sahasan Aha Vanchataha Pratigrihyatam Vāmanaya Mahim Datum Jagraha Jalabhajanam. Shukadev Goswami continued. When the Supreme Personality of Godhead had thus spoken to Bali Mahārāja, Bali smiled and told him, "All right, take whatever you like." To confirm his promise to give Vāmanadeva the desired land, he then took up his water pot. Vishnavekshmang prastasyantam ushana asureshwaram janangs chikirshitam Vishnoho shishyang praha vidang vara. Understanding Lord Vishnu's purpose, Śukrācārya, the best of the learned, immediately spoke as follows to his disciple, who was about to offer everything to Lord Vāmanadeva. Shri Shukra Uvacha Esha Vairochane Shakshar Bhagavan Vishnuravya Kashyapar Aditer Jato Devanam Karya Sadaka. Śukrācārya said, O son of Virochana, this Brahmachari in the form of a is directly the imperishable Supreme Personality of Godhead Vishnu. Accepting Kashyapa Muni as his father and Aditi as his mother, he has now appeared in order to fulfill the interests of the demigods. Pratishrutam tvayaitasmai yaranartam ajanata nasadu manye daityanam mahan upagato naya. You do not know what a dangerous position you have accepted by promising to give him land. I do not think this promise is good for you. It will bring great harm to the demons. Eshate stanam aishvaryam shriyam tejo yashashrutam dasyatyachiddashakraya maya manavo hari. This person falsely appearing as a brahmachari is actually the Supreme Personality of Godhead Hari, who has come in this form to take away all your land, wealth, beauty, power, fame, and education. After taking everything from you, he will deliver it to Indra, your enemy. Purport. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains in this regard that the very word Hari means one who takes away. If one connects himself with Hari, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Lord takes away all his miseries. And in the beginning, the Lord also superficially appears to take away all his material possessions, reputation, education, and beauty. As stated in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam 10:88:8, Yasyaham anugrihnami harishye tad dhanam shanai. The Lord said to Maharaj Yudhishthira, the first installment of my mercy towards a devotee is that I take his possessions, especially his material opulence, his money. This is a special favor of the Lord toward a sincere devotee. If a sincere devotee wants Krishna above everything, but at the same time is attracted to material possessions, which hinder his advancement in Krishna consciousness, by tactics the Lord takes away all his possessions. Here Śukrācārya says that this dwarf brahmachari should take away everything. Thus he indicates that the Lord will take away all one's material possessions and also one's mind. If one delivers his minds to the lotus feet of Krishna, Savai Mana Krishna Padara Vindayo, one can naturally sacrifice everything to satisfy him. Although Bali Mahārāja was a devotee, he was attached to material possessions, and therefore the Lord, being very kind to him, showed him special favor by appearing as Lord Vāmanadeva to take away all his material possessions and his mind as well. Tribhikramar imalokan vishvakaya kramishyati sarvasvam vishnave dattva mudhavartishyase katham. You have promised to give him 3 steps of land in charity, but when you give it, he will occupy the 3 worlds. You are a rascal. You do not know what a great mistake you have made. After giving everything to Lord Vishnu, you will have no means of livelihood. How then shall you live? Purport. Bali Mahārāja might argue that he had promised only 3 steps of land, but Śukrācārya, being a very learned Brahman, immediately understood that this was a plan of Hari, who had falsely appeared there as a brahmachari. The words Muda Vartishyase Katam reveal that Śukrācārya was a Brahman of the priestly class. Such priestly Brahmins are mostly interested in receiving remuneration from their disciples. Therefore, when Śukrācārya saw that Bali Mahārāja had risked all of his possessions, he understood that this would cause havoc not only to the king, but also to the family of Śukrācārya, who is dependent on Bali Mahārāja's mercy. This is the difference between a Vaishnava and a Smartha Brahman. A Smartha Brahman is always interested in material profit, whereas a Vaishnava is interested only in satisfying the Supreme Personality of Godhead. From the statement of Śukrācārya, it appears that he was in all respects a Smartha Brahman, interested only in personal gain. Kramato gang padaikena dvitiyena divang vibo kang cha kayena mahata tarti yasya kuto gatihi. Vāmanadeva will occupy the 3 worlds with 1 step. Then he'll take his 2nd step and occupy everything in outer space. And then he will expand his universal body to occupy everything. Where will you offer him the 3rd step? Purport. Śukrācārya wanted to tell Bali Mahārāja how he would be cheated by Lord Vāman. You've promised 3 steps, he said, but with only 2 steps, all your positions will be finished. How then will you give him a place for his 3rd step? Śukrācārya did not know how the Lord protects his devotee. The devotee must risk everything in his possession for the service of the Lord, but he is always protected and never defeated. By materialistic calculations, Śukrācārya thought that Bali Mahārāja would under no circumstances be able to keep his promise to the brahmachari Lord Vāmanadeva. Nishtang te manye hyapradatu pratishrutam pratishrutasya yonisha pratipadayitum bhavan. You will certainly be unable to fulfill your promise, and I think that because of this inability, your eternal residence will be in hell. Danam prashangsanti yena vrittir vipadyate danam yagyastapa karma loke vritti mato yataha. Learned scholars do not praise that's charity, which endangers one's own livelihood. Charity, sacrifice, austerity, and fruitive activities are possible for one who is competent to earn his livelihood properly. They are not possible for one who cannot maintain himself. Dharmaya yashaserthaya kamaya svajanaya cha panchadhavi bhajam vitam iha mutra chamodate. Therefore, one who is in full knowledge should divide his accumulated wealth in 5 parts: for religion, for reputation, for opulence, for sense gratification, and for the maintenance of his family members. Such a person is happy in this world and in the next. Purport. The Shastras enjoin that if one has money, one should divide all that he has accumulated into 5 divisions. 1 part for religion, 1 part for reputation, 1 part for opulence, 1 part for sense gratification, and 1 part to maintain members of his family. At the present, however, because people are bereft of all knowledge, they spend all their money for the satisfaction of their family. Srila Rupa Goswami taught us by his own example by using 50% of his accumulated wealth for Krishna, 25% for his own self, and 25% for the members of his family. One's main purpose should be to advance in Krishna consciousness. This will include dharma, artha, and kama. However, because one's family members expect some profit, one should also satisfy them by giving them a portion of one's accumulated wealth. This is a shastric injunction. Atrapi bhavrichar gitam shrinu me surasattama satyam om iti yat proktam yanetyaha nritam hitat. One might argue that since you have already promised, how can you refuse? O best of the demons, just take from me the evidence of the Bhavricha Shruti, which says that a promise is truthful preceded by the word Om and untruthful if not. I'm going to use that. Somebody said, why did you lie to me? I'll say, well, I never said the word Om before it, so technically it wasn't a lie, according to Bhavricha Shruti. Satyam pushpa palang vidyad atma vrikshasya giyate vrikshe jivati tannasyad anritam mulamatmana. The Vedas enjoin that the factual result of the tree of the body is the good fruits and flowers derived from it. But if the bodily tree does not exist, there is no possibility of factual fruits and flowers. Even if the body is based on untruth, there are actual fruits and flowers without the help of the bodily tree. Purport. This shloka explains that in relation to the material body, even the factual truth cannot exist without a touch of untruth. The Mayavadis say, Brahma Satyam Jagan Mityam. The spirit soul is truth and the external energy is untruth. The Vaishnava philosophers, however, do not agree with the Mayavada philosophy. Even if for the sake of arguments the material world is accepted as untruth, the living entity entangled in the illusory energy cannot come out of it without the help of the body. Without the help of the body, one cannot follow a system of religion, nor can one speculate on philosophical perfection. Therefore, the flower and fruit, the pushpam phalam, have to be obtained as a result of the body. Without the help of the body, that fruit cannot be gained. The Vaishnava philosophy therefore recommends yukta vairagya. It is not that all attention should be diverted from the maintenance of the body, but at the same time, one's bodily maintenance should not be neglected. As long as the body exists, one cannot. As long as the body exists, one can thoroughly study the Vedic instructions, and thus, at the end of life, one can achieve perfection. This is explained in Bhagavad Gita. Yang yang vapi smaram bhavam tyajantante kalevaram. Everything is examined at the time of death. Therefore, although the body is temporary, not eternal, one can take from it the best service and make one's life perfect. Taryata vriksha unmula shushyatudvartate chirat evam nashtanrita sadhya atma shushena sangshayaha. When a tree is uprooted, it immediately falls down and begins up. Similarly, if one doesn't take care of the body which is supposed to be untruth, in other words, if the untruth is uprooted, the body undoubtedly becomes dry. Purport. In this regard, Srila Rupa Goswami says, prapanchikataya buddhya hari sambandhi vastuna mumukshubi parityago vairagyam falgukatyate. One who rejects things without knowledge of their relationship to Krishna is incomplete in his renunciation. Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1.266. When the body is engaged in the service of the Lord, one should not consider the body material. Sometimes the spiritual body of the spiritual master is misunderstood. But Srila Rupa Goswami instructs, prapanchikataya buddhya hari sambandhi vastuna. The body fully engaged in Krishna's service should not be neglected as material. One who does neglect it is false in his renunciation. If the body is not properly maintained, it falls down and dries up like an uprooted tree from which flowers and fruits can no longer be obtained. The Vedas therefore enjoin God, this is a long thing. Let me try. Om iti satyam nritam taritar pushpam palam vacho satyam saheshwaro yashasvi kalyanakirtir bhavita pushpam hi palam vacha satyam vadattataitan mulan vacho yad anritam yad yata vriksha avirmula shushyati sa udvartata evanritam vadam avirmulam atmanam karoti sashushyati sa udvardate tasmad anritam navaded daita tvetena. The purport is that activities performed with the help of the body for the satisfaction of the absolute truth, Om Tat Sat, never temporary, although performed by the temporary body. Indeed, such activities are everlasting. Therefore, the body should be properly cared for. Because the body is temporary, not permanent, one cannot expose the body to being devoured by a tiger or killed by an enemy. All precautions should be taken to protect the body. Paragriktam apurnam va aksharam yat tarong iti yat kinchir om iti bruyat tena richet vaipuman bhikshave sarvamam kurvam nalam kamena chatmane. The utterance of the word Om signifies separation from one's monetary assets. In other words, by uttering this word, one becomes free from attachment to money because his money is taken away from him. To be without money is not very satisfactory, for in that position, one cannot fulfill one's desires. In other words, by using the word Om, By using the word Om, one becomes poverty-stricken. Especially when one gives charity to a poor man or beggar, one remains unfulfilled in self-realization and in sense gratification. Huh? I don't understand this last sentence here. Anyways. Purport. Maharaj Bali wanted to give everything to Vāmanadeva, who had appeared as a beggar, but Śukrācārya, being Maharaj Bali's familial spiritual master in the line of seminal succession, could not appreciate Maharaj Bali's promise. Śukrācārya gave Vedic evidence that one should not give everything to a poor man. Rather, when a poor man comes for charity, one should untruthfully say, "Whatever I have given you, I have no more." It is not that one should give to him. Actually, the word Om is meant for Om Tat Sat, the absolute truth. Omkar is meant for freedom from all attachments to money because money should be spent for the purpose of the Supreme. The tendency of modern civilization is to give money in charity to the poor. Such charity has no spiritual value because we actually see that although there are so many hospitals and other foundations and institutions for the poor, according to the three modes of material nature, a class of poor men is always destined to continue. Even though there are so many charitable institutions, poverty has not been driven from human society. Therefore, it is recommended here, Bhikshave sarvam om kurvam nalam kamena chatmane. One should not give everything to the beggars. One should not give everything to the beggars among the poor. The best solution is that of the Krishna consciousness movement. This movement is always kind to the poor, not only because it feeds them, but also because it gives them enlightenment by teaching them how to become Krishna conscious. We are there for hundreds and thousands of centers for those who are poor, both in money and in knowledge, to enlighten them in Krishna consciousness and reform their character by teaching them how to avoid illicit sex, intoxication, meat eating, and gambling, which are the most sinful activities and which cause people to suffer life after life. The best way to use money is to open such a center where all may come, live, and reform their character. They may live very comfortably without denial of any of the body's necessities, but they live under spiritual control, and thus they live happily and save time for advancement in Krishna consciousness. If one has money, it should not be squandered away on nothing. It should be used to push forward the Krishna consciousness movement so that all of human society will become happy, prosperous, and hopeful of being promoted back home, back to Godhead. The Vedic Mantra in this regard reads as follows. Paragva itam aksharam yad itar om iti tad yad kinchid om iti ahatrai vasmai tad richyate. Sayat sarvam om kuryad richyad atmanam sakamebhyo nalam syat. Atait purnam abhyatmam yacha nityanritang vachaha sarvang nityanritam bruyat sadushkirti shvasan. Therefore, the safe course is to say no. Although it is a falsehood, it protects one completely. It draws the compassion of others toward oneself, and it gives one full facility to collect money from others for oneself. Nevertheless, if one always pleads that he has nothing, he is condemned, for he is a dead body while living, or while still breathing, he should be killed. Okay, purport. Kill him. Beggars always present themselves as possessing nothing, and this may be very good for them, because in this way they're assured of not losing their money, and of always drawing the attention and compassion of others for the sake of collection. But this is also condemned. If one purposely continues this begging, he is supposed to be dead while breathing, or, according to another interpretation, such a man of falsity should be killed while still breathing. The Vedic injunction in this regard is as follows: Ataitat purnam abhyatmam yan neti sayat sarvam neti bruyat papikasya kirti jayate. Sainim tatraiva hanyat. If one continuously poses himself as possessing nothing and collects money by begging, he should be killed. Sainim tatraiva hanyat. He deserves a death sentence. Strishu narma vivahecha vrittarte prana sankate go brahmanyarte hingsayam nandritang syaj jugupsitam. In flattering a woman to bring her under control, in joking, in a marriage ceremony, in earning one's livelihood, when one's life is in danger, in protecting cows in Brahminical culture, or in protecting a person from an enemy's hands, falsity is never condemned. Falsity is never condemned if it is in flattering a woman to bring her under control. I think that needs a purport. Okay, thus Bhaktivedanta purports of the 8th canto, 19th chapter of the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, entitled Lord Vāmanadeva Begs Charity from Bali Mahārāja. Okay, chapter 20. I'm just looking at the Sanskrit though. The Sanskrit just says strishu. It doesn't say to encourage a woman and bring her under control. I'm seeing it as like pacification. Oops. That's how I was seeing it here. Okay. Okay, chapter 20. Now we're gonna do Lord Bali Mahāraja's reasons for not following. Yeah, Bali Mahāraja's 9 reasons to give charity to Vāmanadeva. So we're going to just go through 4 of the reasons, and then we'll finish the last 5 reasons tomorrow. Yes, Rukmini, that's, yes. These were Śukrācārya's words. These aren't like words for, yeah. That's a very, very good point. Thanks for mentioning that. It's not like those are instructions, ideal instructions that we're supposed to follow. Bali Mahārāja surrenders the universe. The summary of this 20th chapter is as follows. Despite his knowledge that Lord Vāmanadeva was cheating him, Bali Mahārāja gave everything to the Lord in charity, and thus the Lord extended his body and assumed a gigantic form as Lord Vishnu. After hearing the instructive advice of Śukrācārya, Bali Mahārāja became contemplative. Because it is the duty of a householder to maintain the principles of religion, economic development, and sense gratification, Bali Mahārāja thought it improper to withdraw his promise to the brahmachari. To lie or fail to honor a promise given to a brahmachari is never proper, for lying is the most sinful activity. Everyone should be afraid of the sinful reactions to lying, for Mother Earth cannot even bear the weight of a sinful liar. The spreading of a kingdom or temporary. If there is no benefit for the general public, such expansion has no value. Previously, all the great kings and emperors expanded their kingdoms with regard for the welfare of the people in general. Indeed, while engaged in such activities for the benefit of the general public, eminent men sometimes even sacrifice their lives. It is said that one who is glorious in his activities is always living and never dies. Therefore, fame should be the aim of life, and even if one becomes poverty-stricken for the sake of a good reputation, that is not a loss. Bali Mahārāja thought that even if this brahmachari, Vāmanadeva, were Lord Vishnu, if the Lord accepted his charity and then again arrested him, Bali Mahārāja would not envy him. Considering all these points, Bali Mahārāja finally gave in charity everything he possessed. Lord Vāmanadeva then immediately extended himself into a universal body. By the mercy of Lord Vāmanadeva, Bali Mahārāja could see that the Lord is all-pervading and that everything rests in his body. Bali Mahārāja could see Lord Vāmanadeva as a supreme Vishnu wearing a helmet, yellow garments, the mark of Shrivatsa, the Kaustuba jewel, a flower garland and ornaments decorating his entire body. The Lord gradually covered the entire surface of the world, and by extending his body, he covered the entire sky. With his hands, he covered all directions, and with his second footstep, he offered the entire upper planetary system. He covered the entire planetary system. Therefore, there was no vacant place where he could take his third footstep. What verse were we reading up to? Verse 6. Okay. Shri Shuka Uvacha Balir evam griha pati kulacharyena bhashita tushnim bhutva kshanam rajan uvacha vahito gurum. Sri Shukadeva Goswami said, O King Parikshit, when Bali Mahārāja was thus advised by his spiritual master Śukrācārya, his family priest, he remained silent for some time, and then, after full deliberation, he replied to his spiritual master as follows. Purport. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur remarks that Bali Mahārāja remained silent at a critical point. How could he disobey the instruction of Śukrācārya, his spiritual master? It is a duty of a sober personality as such a sober personality as Bali Mahārāja, it is his duty to abide by the orders of his spiritual master immediately, as his spiritual master had advised. But Bali Mahārāja also considered that Śukrācārya was no longer to be accepted as a spiritual master, for he had deviated from the duty of his spiritual master. According to Shastra, the duty of the Guru is to take the disciple back to Godhead. If he is unable to do so and instead hinders the disciple in going back to Godhead, he should not be a Guru. Guru nasasyat. 5.5.18. One should not become a Guru if he cannot enable his disciple to advance in Krishna consciousness. The goal of life is to become a devotee of Lord Krishna so that one may be freed from the bondage of material existence. Takta deham punarjanma naiti mam eti sorjuna. The spiritual master helps the disciple attain this stage by developing Krishna consciousness. Now, Śukrācārya has advised Bali Mahārāja to deny the promise to Vāmanadeva. Under the circumstances, therefore, Bali Mahārāja thought that there would be no fault if he disobeyed the order of his spiritual master. He deliberated on this point. Should he refuse to accept the advice of his spiritual master, or should he independently do everything to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead? He took some time. Therefore it is said, Tushnim bhutva kshanam rajan uvacha vahito gurum. After deliberating on this point, he decided that Lord Vishnu should be pleased in circumstances, even at the risk of ignoring Guru's advice to the contrary. Anyone who is supposed to be a guru, but who goes against the principle of Vishnu Bhakti, cannot be accepted as guru. If one has falsely accepted such a guru, one should reject him. Such a guru is described as follows. Mahabharat Udyoga 179-25. Gurur apyavaliptasya karyakaram ajanata upatya pratipannasya parityago vidhiyate. Kishore taught us such slogan Gurukul. Srila Jiva Goswami has advised that such a useless guru, a family priest acting as a guru, should be given up, and that the proper, bona fide guru should be accepted. He taught us this shloka also. Shat karma nipuno vipro mantra tantra visharadha avaishnavo guru nasyad avaishnavo shwapacho guru. A scholarly Brahmin expert in all subjects of Vedic knowledge is unfit to become a spiritual master without being a Vaishnava. But if a person born in a family of a lower caste is a Vaishnava, he can become a spiritual master. It's from Padma Purana. Shri Balir Uvacha Satyam Bhagavata Proktam Dharmo Yangrihame Dhinam Artam Kamang Yasho Vrittim Yo Na Badheta Karhichit. Bali Mahārāja said, as you have already stated, the principle of religion that does not hinder one's economic development, sense gratification, fame, and means of livelihood is the real occupational duty of the householder. I also think that this religious principle is correct. Purport. Bali Mahārāja's grave answer to Śukrācārya is meaningful. Śukrācārya stressed that one's material means of life and one's material reputation, sense gratification, and economic development must continue properly. To see to this is the first duty of a man who is a householder, especially one who is interested in material affairs. If a religious principle does not affect one's material condition, it is to be accepted. At the present time, in this age of Kali, this idea is extremely prominent. No one is prepared to accept any religious principle if it hampers material prosperity. Śukrācārya, being a person of this material world, did not know the principles of a devotee. A devotee is determined to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead to his full satisfaction. Anything that hampers such determination should certainly be rejected. This is the principle of bhakti, anukulyasa sankalpa pratikulyasa varjanam. Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya 22:100. To perform devotional service, one must accept only that which is favorable and reject that which is unfavorable. Actually, Sundar Gopal Prabhu, in his research, he actually found the source of this, because it's not written anywhere in any of the books where the actual source of this is, and he found it in the Lakshmi Tantra. And the verses afterwards are really interesting also. Anyways, that's another thing. Bali Mahārāja had the opportunity to contribute everything he possessed to the lotus feet of Lord Vāmanadeva, but Śukrācārya was putting forward a material argument to hamper this process of devotional service. Under the circumstances, Bali Mahārāja decided that such hindrances should certainly be avoided. In other words, he decided immediately to reject the advice of Śukrācārya and go on with his duty. Thus, he gave all possessions to Lord Vāmanadeva. Sa chaham vitalobhena pratyakshakshe katang vijam pratishrutya dadamti prahradi kitavo yata. I am the grandson of Maharaj Prahlad. How can I withdraw my promise because of greed for money when I have already said that I shall give this land? How can I behave like an ordinary cheater, especially toward a Brahmin? Purport. Bali Mahārāja had already been blessed by his grandfather Prahlad Maharaj. Therefore, he is a pure devotee, although born in a family of demons. There are two kinds of highly elevated devotees, called Sadhan-siddha and Kripa-siddha. Sadhan-siddha refers to one who has become a devotee by regular execution of the regulative principles mentioned in the Shastras, as ordered and directed by the spiritual master. If one regularly executes such devotional service, he will certainly attain perfection in due course of time. But there are other devotees who may not have undergone all the required details of devotional service, but who, by the special mercy of Guru and Krishna, the spiritual master and the Supreme Personality of Godhead, have immediately attained the perfection of pure devotional service. Examples of such devotees are the Yajna Patnis. The examples of such devotees are the Yajna Patnis, Maharaj Bali, and Shukadeva Goswami. The Yajna Patnis were the wives of ordinary Brahmins engaged in fruitive activities. Although the Brahmins were very learned and advanced in Vedic knowledge, they could not achieve the mercy of Krishna Balaram, whereas their wives achieved complete perfection in devotional service, despite their being women. Similarly, Vairochani, Bali Mahārāja, received the mercy of Prahlad Maharaj, and by Prahlad Maharaj's mercy, he also received the mercy of Lord Vishnu, who appeared before him as a brahmachari beggar. Thus, Bali Mahārāja became a Kripa Siddha because of the special mercy of both Guru and Krishna. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu confirms favor. Guru Krishna Prasade Pai Bhakti Lata Beach. CC Madhya 19:151. Bali Mahārāja, by the grace of Prahlad Maharaj, got the seed of devotional service. And when that seed developed, he achieved the ultimate fruit of that service, namely love of Godhead, Prema Pumartha Mohan. Immediately, he achieves that love of Godhead immediately upon the appearance of Lord Vāmanadeva. Bali Mahārāja regularly maintains devotion for the Lord, and because he was purified, the Lord appeared before him. Because of unalloyed love for the Lord, he then immediately decided, I shall give this little dwarf Brahmin whatever he asks for me. This is a sign of love. Thus, Bali Mahārāja is understood to be one who received the highest perfection of devotional service by special mercy. Nahya satyat paro dharma itiho vacha bhur iyam sarvam shodhum alam manye ritelika param naram. There is nothing more sinful than untruthfulness. Because of this, Mother Earth once said, I cannot bear any heavy thing except for a person who... I can bear any heavy thing except a person who is a liar. Purport. On the surface of the earth, there are many great mountains and oceans that are very heavy, and Mother Earth has no difficulty carrying them. But she feels very much overburdened when she carries even one person who is a liar. It is said that in Kali Yuga, lying is a common affair. Mayaiva vyavaharike. It's Bhagavatam 12:2-3. Even in the most common dealings, people are accustomed to speaking so many lies. So no one is free from the sinful reactions of speaking lies. Under the circumstances, one can just imagine how this has overburdened the earth, and indeed the entire universe. Nahang bibhemi nirayan, na dhanyad asukar navat, na sthana chyavanam mrityor yata vipra pralambhanat. I do not fear hell, poverty, an ocean of distress, fall down from my position, or even death itself, as much as I fear cheating a Brahman. Yadyadhasyati lokesmin samparetang dhanadikam tasya tyage nimittam kim viprastushyen natena chet. You can see that all the material opulences of this world are certainly separated from the possessor at death. Therefore, if the Brahman Vāmanadeva is not satisfied by whatever gifts one has given, why not please him with the riches one is destined to lose at death? Purport. The word Vipra means Brahman, and at the same time, confidential. Bali Mahārāja had confidentially decided to give the gift to Lord Vāmanadeva, without discussion, because such a decision would hurt the hearts of the Asuras and his spiritual master Śukrācārya. Because such a decision would hurt them, he spoke equivocally. Bali Mahārāja, as a pure devotee, had already decided to give all the lands to Lord Vishnu. And so then, what are the next 5 reasons? So first reason was because he is the grandson of Prahlad Maharaj. And then because of the sin of a lie, then fear of cheating a Brahman, and then because everything's temporary anyways. And then the next reasons he's gonna give historic examples. And then fame and the rarity of a chance for charity. And poverty is auspicious, and Lord Vishnu himself has come. So those are the 9 reasons that Bali Mahārāja gives. So we'll read the last 5 reasons. I will read those in detail tomorrow. And then Bali Mahārāja tomorrow will give charity to Lord Vāmanadeva. And then Lord Vāmanadeva occupies everything in 2 steps. We'll read that all tomorrow. All right. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol. Jai Shishi Guru Gauranga Gandharvika Giridhari, Shishi Radha Vinod Bihari, Ju ki Jai. Shri Govinda Gopinath Maran Mohan Ju ki Jai, Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashtatarashatashmar Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj Shri Gurudev ki Jai, Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashtatarashatashmar Bhaktivedanta Vaman Goswami Maharaj ki Jai, Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashtatarashatashmar Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Shri Prabhupada ki Jai, Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupad Shri Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj ki Jai, Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashtatarashatashmar Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada ki Jai, Nitil Pravishta Mahabhagavat Srila Gorkshadas Babaji Maharaj ki Jai, Nitil Pravishta Srila Satchid Ananda Bhakti Vinod Thakure, Nitil Pravishta Vaishnav Sarvabhauma Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj ki Jai, Shri Rupanu Gauriya Guru Varga ki Jai, Shri Rup Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath, Shri Jeev Gopal Patadash Raghunath Shar Goswami Prabhu ki Jai, Shri Sarup Damodar Rai Ramanandari Shri Gaur Parshad Vrinda ki Jai, Namachay Shri Haridas Thakur ki Jai, Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki Jai, Shri Kshetra Mandala Gaura Mandala Vraja Mandala Mathura Vrindavan Dham ki Jai, Sarva Avishta Pradata Giriraj Maharaj ki Jai, Shri Radha Kunda Shama Kund ki Jai, Shri Mona Devi Ganga Devi ki Jai, Shri Tulsi Maharani Vrinda Devi ki Jai, Shri Bhakti Devi ki Jai, Shri Purnamasi Yoga Maya ki Jai, Shri Gopeshwar Mahadev ki Jai, Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki Jai, Shri Bali Mahārāja ki Jai, Shri Vāmanadeva ki Jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki Jai, Samagata Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki Jai, Grantaraj Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki Jai, Shri Nitai Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Vrindai Tulsi Devai Priyai Keshavashaja, Krishna Bhakti Padadevi Satyavataya Namo Namaha, Pancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Dandavat pranams everybody. Thank you Rukmini Didi and Rukmanjari Didi and Dira Mataji. Haribol everybody.